Part 38. The Ultimate Lich King. Author, Xiezhongdai Shang. Chapter 371. The target of the Black Wind was not just a few people in the sky, but a larger and broader storm spread along the sky, and soon enveloped almost the entire northern district. A cruel smile appeared on Pest's lips. She didn't think her attack could have any effect on the pure blood of the dragon in front of her. The main target of her attack was actually the audience below at the Fire Dragon Birth Festival, as well as various communities. A member of. Even if you die, you must bring enough burial objects with you. Are you the elder of the community Salamandra? Just watch all the members of your community being killed by me. Because Nesha and Nisa are dragons, Pest mistakenly thought that her identity was that of Salamandra. In fact, Nesha and Nisa had no relationship with Salamandra. She also had no influence on the fate of the innocent audience below. Not caring at all. No, everyone below. Nation and Nisa didn't care and allowed the storm to envelope themselves. On the other side, Black Rabbit and others discovered Pest's sinister intentions and quickly started shouting in panic. In addition to covering the people in the sky, the black storm that bestowed death also fell like rain. Below were the people who had just woken up from the sound of Lating's flute. Once this wind falls on them, they will definitely be greeted by death and there will be no other way out. Realizing this, Black Rabbit hurriedly shouted in panic, and then took out a gift card again, and a dazzling golden Vajra appeared in her hand. Sandora also followed, and the dragon horns of the Star Sea Dragon King emitted holy red lotus fire, resisting the falling black wind. It's just that a gift comparable to the Godhead is a gift after all. It seems so fragile and powerless in front of the real God, and the black wind of death is still falling slowly. The storm of death gradually suppressed, and the red lotus fireworks and the majestic golden light of the Vajra were all shattered under the pitch-black storm. In the sky, Nasha just stood there, and the dark storm roared and swept across, but it could only surround Nasha, and then she could no longer move forward. Let's see how long you can hold on. Looking at Nesha and Nisa, who were still unresponsive to his attack, Pest's expression became more ferocious, and her waving sleeves became more intense. Death Storm. Woo, ah. Although Nation and Nasa were still able to do so with ease, Black Rabbit, Sandora, and the others couldn't hold on any longer. Once the black storm fell, the entire city, everyone will die. How could something like this be allowed to happen? Raising his head suddenly, Black Rabbit roared, and blazing golden light spewed up like a dark spring. With the efforts of Black Rabbit, who exploded with the power of the gift, the speed of the black storm that was slowly pressing down was once again suppressed and slowed down, but that was all. There is absolutely no way to stop it. It would be great if I still have my Godhead. Looking at the hard-working Black Rabbit and Sandora, Letitia couldn't help but say with a bitter look on her face. Above, Pest waved one hand towards Nesha and Nisa, and spoke in a gloomy voice. Since there is nothing we can do against you, we have to kill the group of guys below first. Did you make a mistake? Their life and death have nothing to do with me. Gorgeous dark purple ripples rippled out of the void beneath her feet. Facing Pest's threatening words, Nesha and Nisa had a look on her face. An expression of indifference. She is an extremely evil demon king who kills people without blinking an eye. Nation Isa's divine personality and power are to destroy the world. No matter how many people die below, she will not blow up her eyes. Then let them all die. Ha 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 ha. He laughed maniacally, waving his wide sleeves. The dark storm entangled, and rotated, and then pressed down violently. Ugh! Black Rabbit screamed again, and radioactive cracks appeared on the ground. Along with the sound of breaking glass, Black Rabbit's whole body was pressed to the ground. Stop struggling. Although you have the gift of Emperor Shishin, the power you can exert is too pitiful. Pest laughed wildly in the sky and pressed down her sleeves fiercely. He closed his eyes fiercely, waiting for the devastating pressure to come, but after a moment, Black Rabbit strangely found that he did not feel pressure, and his body felt relaxed. Since you've already helped me, why don't you help me to the end? Nayashanisa, what do you want me to say to you? Saying this with a look of helplessness, it was Yayu who appeared in front of Black Rabbit to help her resist such an attack. A diamond-shaped ice shield emerged above the two of them, barely able to withstand the wind of plague blowing down. Mr. Yayu, get down, down. Although he was saved, it was obvious that Black Rabbit was more concerned about the town below. If this wind was allowed to blow, the entire town would cease to exist. Humph, aren't you here? My willingness to help them get rid of this devil is already a great gift. Do you still expect me to save people? Don't forget that I am the devil. Do you think I am a philanthropist? Nayashanisa curled her lips and said this very arrogantly, while Yayu below shook his head in amusement. Still the same, so dishonest, although this look is very cute. Mr. Yayu. The situation has reached an extremely critical stage. Now is not the time to continue chatting. Sandora couldn't help but urge her. She couldn't hold on any longer. Don't worry, as long as I'm here, the wind won't go away. You guys should step back, don't be affected by me. Yayu said this very calmly, and immediately stretched out his hands, releasing the terrible cold air. Just like resisting Pest's attack not long ago, the frost cage covering the sky was once again condensed and formed. Black Rabbit, who had seen Yayu's full power, quickly landed downwards. Letitia and Sandora were stunned for a while, and were immediately frozen by the extremely terrifying cold air. So cold. Sandora, who was a fire dragon, could not help but tremble, while the Black Rabbit below hurriedly shouted to the sky. Ms. Sandora, and Mistress Letitia, please come down quickly and leave the rest to Mr. Yayu and Ms. Nayashanisa. The Ultimate Lich King. Author, Xiezhongdai Shang. Chapter 372. Sandora's flame is indeed the best way to deal with this plague, but this does not mean that Yayu is helpless against this plague. The power of the plague wind is resentment and curse, and Yayu is naturally very familiar with this kind of thing. For Yayu, who had swallowed up the sins of this world and even said that he used this power for his own use, the wind of plague in front of him was like some kind of great tonic. When everyone's attention fell on the fight between the two girl demon kings in the sky, the ice controlled by Yayu quietly changed. Strange dark tones emerged, eroding the flawless white frost pollution, and soon slowly swallowed up the wind of plague that filled the sky. By the time Black Rabbit, Sandora, and others came to their senses, most of the wind of plague that swept across the sky had disappeared. That's great. Seeing that the biggest crisis disappeared, Sandora couldn't help but let out a long sigh of relief. Who are you? Seeing that her biggest reliance was broken by the wind of plague, Pest's face turned extremely ugly. The girl stared coldly at Naysha and Naysha in front of her, and couldn't help but ask. Why did you attack? Nayashanisa did not answer, but asked this question. Pest also did not answer, but chose to remain silent, and then Nayashanisa asked again in a different way. You should know how important the Fire Dragon Birth Festival is. You should also know that there are two class rulers here. You should also know how strong the other class ruler Shiro Yaksha is, in addition to the Fire Dragon Sandra who just took office. But even so, you still came here and launched the attack. May I know the reason? As Nesha and Nisa finished speaking, the silence continued. Then Pest took a deep breath and then spoke slowly. For revenge. After speaking coldly and firmly, Pest stared at Naysha and Naysha coldly, with a deathly awareness in her eyes. I see, revenge. Your enemy is Shiro Yaksha, right? When Naysha and Nasa said this, Pest remained silent, but then Naysha and Nasa laughed softly, as if she was smiling happily. So, come and join me here. Nayashanisa said softly as she stretched out her hands towards the stubborn demon girl in front of her. Join you. That's right, join my legion, the Lord of the Dead, the legion of natural disasters that governs the life and death of all things. Scourge, Legion. It's impossible for such a famous community member, Nesha, to know that the girl was deeply shocked the moment she heard this name. Could it be, you are? Looking at Neshanisa's dragon horns and tail again, Pest couldn't help but think of the legend. Yes, I am the destroyer of destiny, the lord of the Scourge Legion, Deathwing. Facing Nayashanisa, who proudly announced her name and origin, Pest fell into silence, and then slowly lowered her head. I am willing to serve you, Lord Deathwing. Do you still hate me? Hate me for killing your men? Seeing Pest's unwillingness, Nayashanisa raised her eyebrows slightly and asked. When I was the Demon King, I was already prepared for the fate of being conquered. Whether it was Lating or Weezer who followed me, they were already prepared to die. Even I am the same. If I fail, I will death. It is precisely because of this psychological preparation that I came here to launch an attack. Seeing Pest's calm look, Nayashanisa nodded with satisfaction. The girl in front of her was a rare talent, and it was even more valuable to cultivate in this way. Let's go first. It's not suitable to take you down now. Seeing the tragedy below, Nation and Nasa just left with Pest. Hey, what's going on? Why, Master Nesha and Nasha? Isn't this normal? She is the Demon King. Don't mistake her identity. Do you really think she is here to be the savior? Yeah, you said this amusingly. Black Rabbit nodded in understanding, and Sandora on the side did the same. I'm so grateful to be able to solve such a big crisis. I'm flattered that Lady Nesha and Nisa are willing to help. By the way, Izaoi-kun doesn't know what's going on. The three girls were talking here. Letitia suddenly thought of Izaoi facing the enemy alone, and asked worriedly. Don't worry, he's just a follower of the Demon King. I think he should be able to deal with an enemy like this with ease. As Yayu said this, the group of people descended from the sky one after another. In one of the ruins, they finally saw Izaoi, who was covered in scars. Looks like a tough fight. Ha, that's about it? I finally had a lot of fun. Izaoi, who was lying on the ground and gasping for air, said with a smile. His palms were unnaturally twisted, and it seemed as if the entire bone was broken. However, despite suffering a lot, Izaoi seemed quite happy. After Yayu and others came over, he jumped up and down again. Although the Demon King was defeated, there was still a lot to do next, such as restoring order at the venue, reopening the festival, and so on. As the leader, Sandora apologized and left early, and then Yayu and others also left together. Boundary Wall, Stage Area, Fire Dragon Birth Festival Operations Headquarters. 10 hours have passed since everything ended, and everyone who was attacked has been safely settled. Because of Yayu's efforts, the wind of plague did not blow down, so most of the people at the venue only felt slightly uncomfortable due to the influence of Lating's flute sound. Then the two class rulers Shiroyaksha and Sandori, who escaped from trouble, also met. After a little rectification, the two class rulers appeared together on the high platform of the stage. The quiet town has regained its vitality again, with colorful glass corridors and brilliant chandeliers exuding charming brilliance. At this moment, everyone who had won the game gathered at the game venue in the stage area. On the high platform of the VIP table, Shiroyaksha and Sandora were sitting at the top. Izaoi, Black Rabbit, Letitia, and other unknown members were sitting a little lower, and next to them were Yayu and Aofes. As for Nesha and Nisa, she didn't know where she went. She didn't appear again after leaving with Pest. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Ultimate Lich King. Author, Xiezhongdai Shang. Chapter 373. After the contestants in the audience and the center of the stage fell silent, Shiroyasha suddenly came to the guardrail of the high platform like mist and stood there, scratching her head as if she was embarrassed, which was actually quite consistent with her appearance of age. Everyone, we performed well in this war. As the ruler of the Eastern class, I must express my gratitude, and my apology. Although I pretended to be great, in the end, for some reason, I was not able to make it from the beginning to the end. Appearing on the battlefield. Oh, I'm really sorry, so, I'll give the final speech to this one. After Byaksha finished thanking him, he gave way to Sandora, who was sitting in the main seat. She stood up with a smile on her face, opened her hands, and took a step forward. The devil's game is over, we have won. There was a burst of cheers. After hearing the speeches of the rulers, everyone finally felt the taste of victory. Some people are liberated from the curse. Some people shed tears because their gay lives were saved. Some people feel relieved that the threat of the devil is gone. Shiroyasha, who looked at these scenes kindly, gave orders to the participants. Heal the injured immediately, and help the uninjured. Once this is over, we will award rewards for the achievement of defeating the Demon King, continue the birth ceremony, and hold a celebration at the same time. Shiroyasha's anticipated command made the cheers louder, and various communities began activities together to clean up the mess after the game. The 2-day celebration was over, making up for the interruption of the Fire Dragon Birth Festival. Nationaza, who left with Pest, never showed up again, and Shiroyasha didn't ask anything. As for others, they thought that the Demon King had been eliminated, so they didn't think much about it. But Offeyes was having a great time. The girl who had never seen such a festival was so curious and interested in everything. Until the end of the festival, she still seemed to be thinking about it a little bit. The festival was finally coming to an end, and after the festival was over, the nameless people also returned to their communities. It's just that in addition to the cute dragon Orpheus, there is another extremely huge red steel doll among the group of people. It is the huge doll that Juyu and Asuka saw in the underground exhibition at the beginning. Kindness. While the festival was being held and everyone was celebrating, Asuka returned to the underground cave again under the guidance of the elf, and saw the 130 group elves who had died because of the Hamel Piper, and passed their gift of the game to this giant. With the help of this giant, the efficiency of reclaiming the unnamed new land has become even faster. And just when Yayu was thinking about whether to go to Naisha and Naisha after relaxing for a few days, the girl appeared in front of him again. Looks like you're looking for me. The girl appeared early one morning. After Yayu was awakened by a burst of laughter like silver bells, he immediately saw the elf-like purple-haired girl appear in front of his window sill. Yayu was lying on the bed. From this position, he could see the girl's 2 slender legs. Following the graceful curve upward, he could vaguely see a more beautiful picture. What are you looking at? Seeing Yayu's entranced look, Nayashanisa grumbled angrily, jumped off the windowsill, and sat directly on Yayu's body. You're really dishonest. When I went to that world, I noticed something was wrong. You are becoming more and more immoral now. You were so pure when you just met me. As the girl said this, she smiled foolishly. Her slender fingers gently touched the tip of Yayu's nose, and then slowly slid downwards. Looking at Yayu's beautiful posture, she felt lost again. You can't blame me, this is the impact of the sins of this life, and I am helpless. As Yayu said this, he shrugged his shoulders, and at the same time, his hands began to wander along Nationis's body very dishonestly. Woo! Without resisting Yayu, Nation and Naisha hummed and let out a moan of enjoyment, and her pretty face became more and more charming. Why, are you already unable to bear this level? Do you really want to do something to me? Licking her lips gently, the girl lowered her body bit by bit until she and Yayu were tightly pressed together without reservation. And just like what the girl said, Yayu's breathing became rapid in an instant, but he controlled himself in time and did not lose consciousness for a moment. Of course, the main reason is that Yayu has a strong immunity to lowly girls with the posture of Naisha and Naisha. If he was a big sister like a mother, he might have lost his mind long ago. Nation and Naisha seemed to have noticed this. The girl snorted angrily, and then violently penetrated Yayu's body with one hand. Just as the words said, Nesha and Naisha's palm passed through Yayu's chest without any hindrance, but there was no trace of blood and no pain to Yayu. This is... Yayu looked at his chest in surprise, looking at the girl's palm that was completely submerged in his chest, with a somewhat puzzled expression on his face. Oh, it looks like it's almost tamed. Nation and Naisha said so lightly. The girl slowly pulled out her palm, giving Yayu an indescribable and strange feeling. What's this? Yayu asked curiously as he looked at the strange thing that appeared in Nation's hand and was connected to his body. It was like a ball of black mud, pulsing uneasily in Nesha and Nisa's palm, as if it had a life of its own. You should be familiar with this thing. It is half of the sins of this world that you have absorbed. Now let me help you and help you completely integrate with it. As soon as Naisha and Naisha's words fell, Yayu felt a heartbreaking pain and passed out without any resistance. Well, it turns out that this power is the most suitable for you. Seeing Yayu sleeping peacefully, Nayashanisa nodded with satisfaction, then waved her hand and opened a gap in the bedroom. Then, keep working hard to regain the power that originally belonged to you. Saying this affectionately, Nation immediately sent Yayu into the unknown world. The Ultimate Lich King. Author, Xiezhongdai Aishang. Chapter 374. In front of him was a hellish scene, as if a meteorite had fallen. No, if I describe it, the ground has been completely cut away. The scenery of the street was cut off into a shallow bowl shape, and in addition, it became a corner of the street that looked like a crater. And in the center, there seems to be something like a metal block standing there. However, none of that is important. What is important is the girl. A girl wearing a wonderful dress stood there with her feet on the armrest of the throne. The sound mixed with small sighs disappeared. As if any other element would be reduced to impurity, the presence of that girl was overwhelming. The dress, made of incredible materials, like metal and cloth, is truly eye-catching. And the radiant skirt also has a mind-numbing beauty. But her own appearance completely covered those up. Long dark purple hair hanging down to her shoulders and waist. Looking up at the sky with a solemn gaze, his eyes reflected an indescribable and incredible color. Even the goddess would be jealous of the way his face was tilted listlessly and his mouth was silently closed. The girl looked to be only 15 or 16 years old, but her eyes, which were as bright as crystal, had lost their vivid color and looked a little lifeless. The girl is very beautiful. This beauty seems a bit unreal and illusory, but this beauty does not bring love and praise to the girl. Everyone just avoids her and fears her like a snake or scorpion. Because the girl is an elf that brings destruction and death to this world, an existence that must be killed and eliminated. Again, it looks like this. I am alone and there is nothing left. Standing among the ruins, the girl whispered so softly. Because of her appearance, everything around her disappeared, swept and crushed by the black and purple beams, and then turned into garbage-like fragments, gradually flying in the air and being annihilated. Space shock, such an unreasonable disaster, will only bring absolute destruction once it occurs. It was as if an eraser was gently smearing a circle on the map. Clean as if it had never been there. This disaster seems to be accompanied by a curse from the elves. Once the elves appear in this world, it will inevitably cause a space earthquake. Therefore, elves are regarded as synonymous with disaster by humans, and they have been hunted and hunted down. And this time it was the same. The girl knew exactly what was waiting for her. Soon, human special forces will arrive, and then they will attack and even kill themselves mercilessly. The sad look once again flowed out of the girl's eyes. She obviously didn't want to take action, obviously didn't want to fight, obviously didn't want to hurt others, but the girl was helpless. Even I feel a little disgusted with myself who will destroy everything and kill countless people whenever he appears. But even so, the girl still wants to live, just a simple luxury like living, but... Sighing again, in this hellish scene, the girl's extremely sad eyes looked towards the distant sky, but soon, an unnatural figure in the ruins attracted her attention. That's a survivor. There was indeed a human being lying in the ruins. The expression on the girl's face was touched for a moment, and she immediately walked towards it. Lying there quietly, as if asleep, this was an exceptionally handsome man. The girl involuntarily picked him up and felt his breath. He was still breathing, but he seemed to have just fainted. For some reason, the girl let out a long sigh of relief, feeling relieved that the man in front of her was safe and sound. Just when the girl was about to take the man to a safe place, a sound that sounded like the wind was being torn came from the distant sky. I don't know when there were several strangely dressed humans flying in the air, and from the weapons in their hands, they shot many missile-like things towards the girl. The missile that came from the air stopped a few meters away from the girl, as if it was caught by an invisible hand. The girl spoke in a calm tone without any fluctuation. "This kind of thing is useless, why can't you learn it?" She still had that sad look, and the girl's eyes were full of tiny scars. As the girl finished speaking, she raised her hand that was not holding the sword, and then shook it toward the sky. Soon, the missile seemed to be compressed and exploded on the spot. The explosion was surprisingly small. It was as if it had been detonated from the inside. It can be seen that the people flying in the sky are helpless and unable to do anything. However, it seemed that there was no intention to stop the attack, and the missile flew over again. "Humph, all of you annoying guys, please disappear," the sword in his hand waved, pointing to the sky with the biting wind. Just a random wave like that. In an instant, the wind roared. Immediately, a violent shock wave struck, and the slash flew into the air along the extended line of the sword. The people flying above panicked and began to avoid the place. In the moment of evasion, they did not forget to continue the attack. The ray with extremely spectacular visual effects was shot from the mouth towards the girl with long dark purple hair. The light was blocked by the invisible wall above the girl, and the overflowing light splashed out like water droplets, and like fireworks in the night sky, it bounced in all directions with dazzling light. Although she said so, in fact the girl still did not kill her. The girl never meant to hurt anyone, but these humans kept chasing after her. Then, after discovering that all long-range attacks were ineffective, a figure landed quickly. Wearing a machine, that's what I should say. A girl whose entire body was covered in tight clothing that she had never seen before. It carries a huge propeller on its back and a weapon shaped like a golf club in its hand. The girl had neat short silver-white hair, and her eyes staring at the purple-haired girl were full of hatred, as if the girl in front of her was her sworn enemy. "Damn elf, put down the hostages in your hands." After noticing the man in the purple-haired girl's arms, the silver-haired girl said angrily. "No. It's useless to talk more. The elf with blood on his hands will kill you here today." Sure enough, no matter what they say, it's useless, their purpose is to kill themselves. Thinking of this, the purple-haired girl's expression turned cold again, without any emotion. The Ultimate Lich King. Author, Xiezhong Dai Shang. Chapter 375. What's going on with this shabby machine? Wearing a bright red suit, the braid on his head was tied with a black hairband, and there was a lollipop in his mouth. The girl was smashing the screen in front of her with an annoyed look. This is a bridge full of science fiction atmosphere, filled with all kinds of strange equipment that can only be seen in science fiction novels. What kind of junk thing is this? Why is there still no picture, She kicked the machine in front of her as if to vent her anger, and finally the helpless girl lay on the screen. "Commander, please be gentle. If such a precision instrument is damaged, the organization will be very distressed given the current funds." The man who spoke next to the girl called Commander was a man in a white suit with long blonde hair. The words "I am a pussy, come and trample on me" seemed to be written all over the man's face. When people see it, they can't help but want to give this guy a good beating. "Do I need your advice on what I should do?" The commander glanced at the guy next to him and kicked the man's knee hard. Ouch! The man first let out a scream, and fell down with a crash. Then he was kicked on the head again, and finally he gurgled along the steps of the high platform where the commander was sitting. Rolled down. "Commander, the reason has been found out. The monitoring facility seems to have been affected by a powerful force, so no images can be displayed." While the blonde man was lying on the ground groaning, another man walked away. He said when he got to the bottom, "The last scene I saw was of the AST members attacking. They should be fighting now. AST, Anti-Spirit Team. Modern magicians who wear armor in order to hunt elves, catch elves, and kill elves, and are not monsters above humans. Speaking of which, if you are not a Superman, you will not be able to compete with the elves. This is the current situation." Even though they were incredibly armed like that, there was still a huge gap between them and the power of the elves. Confirmed to be 10. Now one is pursuing and engaging in combat. It can still be observed through long-distance reconnaissance equipment. Does the commander need to see it? Bring it out, bring it out." The commander waved his hand impatiently. After the words fell, a picture finally appeared on the screen covered with snowflakes. It was a thumbnail of the city, but the destroyed scene in the center was still clearly visible, like a hideous scar. "The same thing is carved there. Ah, the damage caused is really spectacular. No matter how it is, you can't see clearly at all," the commander said with some distress, her whole body almost lying on the screen. On the screen, apart from the cityscape, you can only see the strange light and the aftermath of the explosion. This should be caused by the elves fighting AST. As expected, even though he could be called a monster with such armor, he is still so powerless in front of a real monster. The commander sighed as he spoke, although he couldn't see the specific battle situation clearly. But she knew that AST members would never have any advantages. "It is true, but there is nothing we can do. This is the fact." The blonde man who had been resurrected at some point stood beside the commander again, sighing helplessly. The commander raised his leg and stepped on the man's foot with the heel of his leather boot. "Oh, oh." Ignoring the man's expression that seemed to be filled with supreme happiness, the commander sighed softly. "I understand even without telling you. That's why I proposed such a battle plan." After the commander finished speaking, he was suddenly stunned. "Hey, the round table has finally issued permission to start fighting." Because of the commander's words, the crew members on the bridge could be heard holding their breath. "Okay, it's time to let the crazy people in AST see how powerful we are, but before that we have to make a call to the important secret weapon. Have you taken shelter properly?" the commander said and took out his mobile phone. After a long while, the call was not connected. "What are you doing? You dare not answer my call? It's so unreasonable." Listening to a blind sound in her ears, the girl who was called commander said so unhappily, and then her attention fell on the monitor screen again. "Report to commander, the influence of the reconnaissance equipment has disappeared, and close observation can now be carried out." "Oh, hurry up and bring up the picture for me," the commander, swinging his cute twin tails and holding a lollipop in his mouth, made a move to scold Fang Qiu. Although he didn't look domineering at all, he looked cute. To the point of explosion. "I understand, commander," he replied respectfully, and after a while, he quickly brought up the screen on the translucent screen in front of the girl. The first thing he saw was still the appearance of the destroyed and messy city. His fingers slid on the screen and controlled the movement of the screen. The commander began to look for traces of the elves and AST members. Soon, she discovered the two girls in the confrontation. One was a purple-haired elf codenamed Princess, and the other was an AST member with short white hair and wearing a mecha. Well, are they fighting again? Don't these idiots know that the elves don't want to fight? If you want to kill them, 10,000 lives won't be enough for you. Looking at the elves and AST girls in the battle, the commander sighed and shook his head, and then something unusual quickly attracted her attention. Over there, hurry up, zoom in, is that elf holding something? As the commander said this, everyone present was slightly stunned, and the blonde man on the other side began to zoom in on the screen, and then completely displayed the scene in the eyes of everyone present. The elf was indeed holding something in his arms, and it was a person. How could it be possible? All the people nearby should have taken refuge. Why did a man appear in the middle of the ruins? Why did the elves protect him? Can his identity be confirmed? I don't remember seeing this guy before. He is probably just an ordinary resident who was involved in the incident. The blonde man said this, and the girl commander frowned deeply. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Ultimate Lich King. Author, Xiezhongde Aishang. Chapter 376. Meanwhile below, the battle continues. The purple-haired elf girl wields a giant sword that is larger than her entire body, while the silver short-haired girl from the AST organization wields a high-tech product that looks like a plasmolite knife. The two were fighting fiercely, but in fact it was just the girl with short silver hair who was passively accepting the attack. Even if she was holding a burden, the purple-haired girl's attacks were still so easy and freehand. Every blow made the girl with short silver hair, showing an expression of unbearable pain. Why, are you still fighting? The giant sword slashed down from top to bottom. Faced with such a large-scale attack, the girl did not choose to dodge, but took it head-on. Her body tilted, and even if it was a casual blow without killing intent, the silver-haired girl still couldn't bear it. Although she blocked the blow, she paid a heavy price. The armor on the left shoulder completely collapsed and shattered, but this was only the girl's first slash. Then with the second slash, a piece of the pure white figure's mechanical equipment was chopped off, and the third slash forced the girl to use the jet behind her to temporarily escape the attack range of the elf. You are no match for me. If I come again, I will kill you. He was holding an exaggeratedly large sword in one hand and pointing it at the white girl in front of him, while the other hand was still holding the unconscious male. In the seemingly fierce battle just now, this man was well protected by her and was not harmed in the slightest. The girl didn't know why she did this. She really didn't want to hurt others, but she didn't have any good feelings for the humans who always wanted to kill her. All the girl can do is to stay away from humans silently after coming to this world, without any conflict, and then wait until the critical time comes to return. No one has figured out what elves are until now. Not only humans are unclear, but the elves themselves are not very clear about what their existence is. They are always forcibly sent to this world. The moment they appear, they are unconscious and unable to control the powerful power in their bodies, thus causing terrible destruction. After staying in the real world for a period of time, they will be sent back to criticality. No one knows where the critical point is, but it is not a pleasant place for elves, because in the critical point they have no consciousness of their own, and they don't even know whether they exist. The purple-haired elf girl spoke so calmly, and although her tone had no fluctuation, it sounded like ridicule and insult to the ears of the silver-white short-haired girl. Just when she couldn't help but rush forward again, her companions rushed over. Calm down, Origami, you are no match for her. The girl who looked like a captain fell down and grabbed the angry girl with short white hair. But, she still controls the hostages. The white-haired girl who calmed down said this, and soon her teammates also noticed the man held in the elf's hand. The elves took hostages. This was the first time for her to encounter this kind of thing, and the girl didn't know how to deal with it for a moment. Boring, don't follow me, or I will kill you. The purple-haired girl said this, immediately put away the sword in her hand, and left here with the unconscious man in her arms. The elf girl didn't know why she wanted to leave with this man, but she just couldn't bear to let go. Under normal circumstances, elves do not stay in the real world for very long. When a certain point is reached, they will be forcibly sent back to the critical state. But this time, they didn't know why the girl didn't return to the critical point as usual, but flew away, which puzzled them. Now, what should we do? What else can we do? Chase quickly. Origami, your equipment has been damaged. For now, go and notify the headquarters. The captain looked like he was saying this, and the girl with short white hair named Origami nodded slightly. Report, the elves took the hostages and disappeared. They did not return to the critical point. Their current whereabouts are unknown. Please apply for satellite monitoring. Soon after, a call for professional attire came from ASD's headquarters in the city. Why would I leave with this man? Just leave him there, his companions will definitely save him, right? After flying for a long time, the girl stopped in an uninhabited place. She quietly looked at the man sleeping in her arms, thinking so absent-mindedly. The girl herself couldn't figure out what was going on and why she had a special feeling for this man. Repeating the life of sleeping, waking up, being hunted and falling asleep again, the girl's emotions gradually disappeared, but today, there was a faint wave in the girl's heart. What exactly is this feeling? Could it be what humans call love at first sight? The elf girl who didn't have much common sense was thinking so wildly, a sinner's blush appeared on her pretty face. But soon, the touching charm on her face disappeared, and she became silent and sad again. So what? He is an elf, an existence that brings disaster and destruction to mankind. Even this man will definitely want to kill himself after he wakes up and knows his identity, right? And the time is almost up. I am almost back to the critical point, right? The elf girl thought this, and then slowly closed her eyes, waiting for the moment to return to the critical point. But soon, something puzzling happened to the girl. She was not forced back to the critical point and was still in this world. What on earth is it? The girl tilted her head, with a cute and puzzled expression on her face, and at this moment there was a sound behind her. That man, is he awake? As the elf girl thought this, she felt a burst of joy and then panic in her heart. This man, if this man knew that he was an elf, he would definitely want to kill him, right? With such complicated emotions, the girl turned around and looked at the man who had just woken up and sat up. Are you going to kill me too? Ha! Yeah, you, who had just woken up and was a little dizzy, suddenly saw such an unrealistically beautiful girl in front of him and was a little dazed. Then the girl's words made him even more dazed. I am an elf, don't you want to kill me? Seeing Yayu's dazed look, the elf girl thought that the other party didn't know her identity, so she couldn't help but add another sentence. The Ultimate Lich King. Author, Xiezhongdai Aishang. Chapter 377. Elf. Is there another one this big? Yayu is naturally no stranger to things like elves. The little thing that has been clinging to the flying bird is an elf. Yayu also has the same impression of elves. So when the girl said that she was an elf, Yayu subconsciously said something like this. Big. The girl was also stunned for a moment because of Yayu's inexplicable opening. Then the girl subconsciously lowered her head and looked at her breasts. It seems to be very big. Wait, something seems wrong. Although there is no common sense, girls still have a basic sense of shame. After Yayu said this, the girl immediately hugged her body shyly. What weird things are you talking about, big or small? Seeing the girl's shy look, Yayu touched the tip of his nose very innocently. He had no intention of doing so, but it seemed that the girl had some misunderstanding. Sorry, I mean the elves I've seen were only the size of my hand, so I didn't react or come when you said you were an elf. Is there such a small elf? Listening to what Yayu said, the purple-haired elf girl also showed a curious look. She involuntarily moved closer and sat down next to Yayu. Ah, I'm not very clear about this world, but in my world there are indeed elves with this size. You are from another world. Listening to what Yayu said, the girl became even more curious. The man in front of her actually came from another world. Could it be that he was not a human, but also an elf? So you are not human. I don't know what I mean, but it's definitely not a human being, right? Yayu said this and touched the tip of his nose in embarrassment. If you must, you can call me the Forgotten One. The Forgotten. Listening to what Yayu said, the purple-haired girl's eyes widened in excitement. Although she didn't understand what the Forsaken were at all, she just wanted to make sure that the other person was not a human being and was an alien like her. In this way, the other party would not want to kill her like those humans, and she would be able to become friends with him. The word friend has always been a luxury wish for girls, and now, this luxury wish has finally become a reality. Of course, it's not just friends, it can even go further. Thinking of this, the girl blushed again. She didn't know what this feeling was, but she didn't hate it. Well, don't you want to go into critical sleep? Will you also cause a space shock when you come to this world? Critical, what does sleeping mean? Yayu asked with some confusion, while the elf girl slowly began to explain. Later, Yayuki understood the specific situation of this world and what kind of existence the so-called elf was, and he couldn't help but feel infinite pity for the girl in front of him. No wonder she is so happy, no wonder she has such a bright expression when she sees me. In this world that doesn't need her, in this world that everyone hates and wants to kill her, her existence makes her find a kindred spirit. I'm different from you. My world is bigger and more colorful than this world. You can live a good and normal life there. Really, does such a world really exist? Well, yes. In that world, people who have great power will not be feared. On the contrary, they will be respected. Really, really. Listening to what Yayu said, the purple-haired elf girl looked very excited, but she quickly calmed down. Even if there is such a world, what does it have to do with myself? Don't be so disappointed. If possible, I can take you to a world like that, right? Yayu said so gently, the purple-haired elf's eyes suddenly brightened. Really, really, can you take me to a place like that? Well, that's okay, but before that I have to stay in this world for a while. There are things I must do. Yayu said this, but he was not very clear about what he said he had to do. Nation and Nasha just sent him here inexplicably without saying anything. But now that he has a general understanding of the world, Yayu feels that what he wants to do should have something to do with these girls called elves, right? Strange, why, you don't have to go critical until now. When Yayu was thinking this, the purple-haired elf girl also showed a strange look. Normally, she should have been automatically sent back to the critical state after such a long time, but she didn't know why she didn't feel it until now. That feeling. Well, don't you have to go back to the critical point? Listening to the girl talking to herself, Yayu also showed a curious look. The purple-haired elf girl nodded slightly and spoke in confusion. Normally I can only stay in this world for a short time, but I don't know why I wasn't sent back to sleep for so long this time. Wouldn't it be better not to go back? You also want to see this world, this colorful world. When Yayu said this, the purple-haired elf girl shook her head sadly. They don't need me. This world doesn't need me. As soon as I appear, there will be humans who want to kill me. That's not the case. Since you were born in this world, you naturally have the right to live in this world. As for humans, when did they become the masters of this world? Yayu smiled disdainfully, and then gently touched the girl's head. Don't worry, as long as I'm here, no one can hurt you. Kindness. The purple-haired elf girl nodded vigorously, with a bright smile that she had never seen before. By the way, I don't know your name yet, can you tell me? When Yayu said this, the expression on the girl's face couldn't help but stiffen, and she immediately lowered her head with a sad expression. I don't have a name. If you don't have a name, just give it a name. How about calling it Toa? Yayu didn't know why he gave the girl such a name. It was as if someone controlled him to say these two words. Maybe this was fate. The Ultimate Lich King. Author, Xiezhong Dai Shang. Chapter 378. Toshika? It's a very nice name. I like it very much. Listening to Yayu's name for herself, Shixiang showed a gentle smile on her face. What about you? What's your name? In my words, it's Yayu. Yayu. Listening to Yayu's answer, Shixiang murmured a little more, and then looked at Yayu with a happy face. Then my name will be Ye Shixiang. For it. Yayu was stunned for a moment, but he didn't know what to say. He just touched the girl's head silently, feeling as if he had another daughter. If you like, let it be like this. Kindness. Listening to what Yayu said, Shixiang nodded happily. Because it was inconvenient to go to the town, Yayu took Shixiang to a shrine and thought about his future plans. At the same time, when the two of them were hiding in the shrine, on the other side, in the huge battleship Fraxinus suspended above the town, the girl-like commander was watching the report coming from his subordinates. Strange man, and the elf has not returned to criticality, what is going on? The girl frowned as she said this, with a puzzled look on her face. At this moment, at the door of the main hall, Murasame Rain, the analyst of Fraxinus, walked in with a girl dressed in a school uniform. Oh, it's my sister, are you an idiot? Why didn't you evacuate when the alarm was issued? Why did you run to the scene of the incident? You were knocked unconscious by the shock wave. It's really embarrassing. You lay there looking so pitiful. On the ground, if a strange old man passing by sees it, he will lose his virginity. How could something like this happen? The public security in Tiangong City is so good, how could there be such exaggeration as what you said, Kotori? The girl's name is Itsuka Shiori, she is an ordinary female high school student with a younger sister, Itsuka Kotori. Before today, she had been living a very ordinary life. But just after today, everything changed drastically. His sister inexplicably became the leader of a large organization that seemed to be super powerful, and he was also told that he was selected to perform an unknown mission. I don't know why Wilhe Shizi's psychology is very uncertain. In ordinary life, he is eaten to death by the sister, and all kinds of endless tricks make him dumbfounded. Okay, let's not talk about these things for now. The information obtained from long-distance surveillance is really too little. Let's ask you at the scene, what did you see? Do you know about the relationship between that man and the elf? Even if you say so. Listening to Kotori's words, Itsuka Shiori was slightly stunned at first, and then looked at his sister sitting in the commander's position with a puzzled look. Before this, can you explain to me what all this is about? Well, it's really troublesome. Well, first of all, those are monsters called elves. This is AST, the anti-elf unit of the ground self-defense force. Because my sister, this idiot, was running around minding her own business, she saw a lot of things that she shouldn't have done. What I saw, if I hadn't been lenient, he would have been secretly executed by now. Even if you say that, I still don't understand anything. Listening to his sister talking so incomprehensibly, Wilhi Shazi couldn't help but get confused, as if he still didn't understand anything. Okay, then I will explain it in detail and slowly. First of all, as his finger slid across the screen, a woman's outfit appeared that made Wilhi Shazi feel familiar. AST, a specialized force to deal with elves? Deal with elves? That's right, AST, a special force for elves, is responsible for killing elves? Kill. This word made Wilhi Shazi tremble. Of course, in fact, if the elves hadn't deliberately let go of the fight, these self-righteous guys would have died countless times. But the elves are always a danger, so they must be removed, Kodari said seriously. Is it dangerous? Raising his eyes, Wilhi Shazi couldn't help but recall the traces of destruction brought about by the arrival of the purple-haired girl, and then fell into silence again. But, do you really want to kill them? I always feel elf and pitiful. Well, what you said is really in line with what you said, sister. But don't be depressed, because there are people who think the same as you, and that's us. We Ratatoskra are implementing this concept, and we are also crusading the elves, just use a different kind of gentle method. Seeing his sister's disappointed look, Itsuka Kodari smiled and continued to explain. That's the way to talk to the elves? We, Ratatoskra, use the form of dialogue to solve the space earthquake without killing the elves? Just a conversation? Of course not. You have to have an extremely intimate conversation with the elf. For example, flirting with each other, having a romantic date, and finally having the elf fall in love with you. Doesn't that sound great? Kodari explained this to Itsuka Shiori with an expression that said, you should be excited because I'm taking advantage of you. What a good ghost. I'm a girl. Between girls. Hearing what Itsuka Kodari said, Itsuka Shiori's pretty face suddenly turned red, and the girl seemed at a loss as she spoke in such a panic. Who said girls can't do such things between girls? Obviously the love between girls is the purest. Don't show that expression. This is just to make the elves have a good feeling about the world. And only by making the elves shy can their abilities be sealed. The only way to make the elves shy is to fall in love. Analyzing the benefits of this method logically, Kodari was very satisfied with the reasons that she came up with to deal with Itsuka Shiori, whether it was temporary or prepared in advance, and she almost said, I am indeed the smartest. Yes. I know, if doing this can protect that girl. Thinking of the sad look of the purple-haired girl he saw, Wilhi Shazi couldn't help but tremble slightly in his heart. That is a distressing feeling. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Ultimate Lich King. Author, Xiezhongdai Shang. Chapter 379. Speaking of which, what happened to Princess and that man over there? Princess. Itsuka Shiori was slightly stunned, while Itsuka Kodari on the side nodded slightly. The code name of the elves, because elves have no names, so they have been given various nicknames based on their physical characteristics. When Itsuka Kodari said this, Okawa Shiori was silent for a while, but Kodari didn't seem to notice and began to continue asking. Tracking shows that she still hasn't returned to criticality, and she doesn't know what happened. Now she and the man have settled in a remote shrine. Is this like this? Let's observe it for now and see if there is a possibility of direct communication. At the same time, in the shrine on the other side, Yayu Zheng was holding Toa worriedly. The girl's eyelids were getting heavier and heavier, and it seemed as if she would fall asleep at any time. What's happening all of a sudden? What's wrong? Toa, are you okay? No. Nothing, I'm just sleepy, and want to sleep. Sleep? Go back to criticality. Well, it looks like I'm going back after all. See you next time, Yayu. As he said this reluctantly, Shixiang's voice became smaller and smaller, and finally disappeared directly in Yayu's arms. Have you gone back to, critical point? Seeing Shixiang disappearing in front of him, Yayu said this with some sadness. But what on earth did you come to this world for? I still haven't figured it out yet, and Nation and Nasa haven't told me about it. Could it be that they are conquering the world just like before? But where should she go now? Toa said see you next time, but when will that next time be? She didn't say how long she would be in critical slumber when she returned, and she didn't say where she would appear when she returned to the real world again. Did not say. Well, there will be space earthquakes before the elves appear. At that time, you can know where Toa appears based on the location of the space earthquakes. Just when Yayu was thinking this and planning to go to the town to take a look, there was a sudden noise outside the door. Is anyone here? The door of the shrine was suddenly pushed open, and Toa who walked in was slightly startled when she saw Yayu appearing in front of her, and made a very cute sound. Hey, why is the elf missing? Looking at the empty shrine and Yayu standing in front of him with a puzzled expression, Itsuka Shizi said this while speaking to the micro-communication device in his ear. At the instigation of her sister Kotori, Wilhi Shiori was sent down and came to the shrine, intending to persuade the elf through dialogue. However, to her surprise, when she walked in, she found that the elf was missing. Hey, what should I do now? Why is the elf missing? And even if the elf is gone, why is there still a man here? What should I do now? It's so embarrassing. Wilhi Shizi looked embarrassed and didn't know what to do, while Yayu looked at the other person curiously, and soon discovered something unusual about the girl. Interesting, is this girl the same group as the girls who launched the attack, or? What should we do now? Why is the elf missing? What on earth is going on? How do I know? It seems like Princess has returned to critical condition, right? Then what should I do now? What should I say to this man? Well, this man is also very important. Let's ask him a little bit about the elves. Why did the elves leave with him? But how can you ask such a question? Isn't this exposed? Didn't you say that you can't let the elves know about my relationship with you? Itsuka Shiori asked in confusion, while Kotori answered into the earphones with an indifferent expression. What does it matter? He is not an elf anyway. At worst, he will be absorbed into the organization when the time comes. If he is paired with you, it might be easier to defeat the elf. As Kotori said this, the expression on Itsuka Shiori's face became even more tangled. Looking at the curious man standing in front of him, he had no idea what to say. Then, well, where is this gentleman, the elf? What is your relationship with the elf? Interesting, are you in the same group as those people? What, who are you talking about, those people who attack elves? I'm not the same group as them. Hearing what Yayu said, Wilhi Shizi immediately retorted loudly. I am different from them. We exist because we want to communicate with the elves and let them know the beauty of this world. We are different from AST who only know how to stop killing with killing. Following the instructions from his sister in the headset, Wilhi Shizi said to Yayu with a firm face. Oh, you are an organization that protects elves? That's right. Our purpose is to protect the elves? Wilhi Shizi nodded and said so seriously, while Yayu laughed softly and reached out towards Wilhi Shizi with one hand. Hey, what do you want to do? If you want to communicate, let your master behind you talk to me. This is not sincere at all. While saying this, Yayu took off the walkie-talkie that Wilhi Shizi had hidden in his ear. Give it back to me. Are you the mastermind behind this? This term is a little inappropriate. We are obviously the messengers of justice. What a strange name for the mastermind behind the scenes. After making such a dissatisfied sound, Wilhi Kinlai's voice rang in Yayu's ears. Little, little girl. Yayu was slightly stunned. The voice coming from the earphones was actually younger than the girl in front of him. Why, do you look down on the little girl? We are Ratadoskr, an organization formed through dialogue to solve space earthquakes without killing the elves. Ratadoskr. Yes, it is a completely different organization from AST. Our purpose is to use love to influence the elves and let them know the beauty of this world, so as to solve the problem of space shock. How about you, are you interested in joining us? It seems like he is also a being who has a wonderful relationship with elves. Well, will you join me? Listening to Wilhi Kinlai's invitation, Yayu lowered his head and thought for a moment. He was wondering where to start. Joining them might be a good thing. The Ultimate Lich King. Author, Xiezhong Daishang. Chapter 380. In the sky above Tiangong City, in the huge battleship Fraxinus full of science fiction atmosphere, after Yayu agreed to join them, Wilhi Shizi brought him here. Welcome to Fraxinus, I am the commander of Ratadoskr, Kotori Itsuka, and the one beside you is my sister Shiori Itsuka. Itsuka Kotori, dressed in military uniform, sat on the high command seat, and next to her was Murasame Rain, who was also dressed. After seeing Yayu walk in, Murasame Lingian, who had dark circles under his eyes and looked like he was awake, couldn't help but licked his lips gently, looking very hungry. By the way, why does this organization always give off the feeling that something is very wrong? Everything on the big screen here looks like the game values from a beautiful girl development game. It shouldn't be like this, right? After all, such a huge organization shouldn't blatantly study these things on such a serious occasion, right? Welcome to Ratadoskr, and we will be our companions from now on. I hope you can cooperate well with my sister in the battle against elves in the future. Even though you say that, but I have no idea what to do. Well, it's very simple. Just communicate and talk with the elves, flirt with each other, go on romantic dates, and finally make the elves fall in love with you. Itsuka Kotori smiled and said what she once said to her sister. Why is that? In order to let the elves feel the beauty of this world, so that they will no longer cause unconscious destruction, this is a very necessary approach. Although it sounded very unreliable, Yayu didn't know how to refute her. In this way, Yayu became a member of Ratadoskr and transferred to Wilhi Shiori's school under the arrangement of Wilhi Kotori. The next day, in school, Itsuka Shiori looked at Yayu, who appeared in front of him with an embarrassed look on his face, not knowing what to say. On the other hand, Okamine Take, who was the class teacher of Itsuka Shiori's class, started to speak for him with a smile. Introduce everyone. My classmates, this one is a new transfer student and a distant relative of Shiori Itsuka of our class. I hope I can get along well with you in the future. After teacher Zayazu said this, there was a burst of cheers in the class, and everyone stared curiously at the new classmate in front of them. As for Yayu, he seemed a little embarrassed. He was already a father, but he ended up having to be classmates with a group of children. Although he is a high school student, he is essentially only a few years older than his daughter. However, Yayu's appearance looks very young. Even if he enters this high school class, he will not look out of place. Since you are a distant relative of Itsuka Shiori-san, please take a seat next to Itsuka Shiori first. After teacher Zayazu said this, Yayu nodded and came to sit next to Wilhi Shizi. The morning class ended soon. During the break, Yayu walked alone in the corridor of the school building to get familiar with the school's facilities. As he was walking, he suddenly staggered. Yayu felt something grab his ankle, causing him to almost fall. This. Looking back, Yayu looked at the woman in white who was clutching her ankle with one hand and lying face down on the ground with a sad look on her face. Murasame Lingian, Yayu called out this woman's name with some uncertainty. Don't worry, I just fell. As she said this, the woman slowly raised her face that was pressed against the corridor. Long bangs, thick dark circles under the eyes, and sexy red lips. Although he is not wearing glasses, his face is unmistakably mature and charming. "Why did you come to our school, Amamuraran?" Yayu said strangely when he saw the woman in front of him. "Don't you understand after reading this? I have been a teacher for a while. By the way, the subject I teach is physics, and I am also the deputy head teacher of Class 4, Grade 2. Lingyan said while showing the name tag on the chest of the white clothes. By the way, a bear with scars can be seen in the top breast pocket. It's not just Lingyan, I'm here too. Just when Yayu didn't know what kind of expression he should use to face Murasame Lingyan, another proud voice rang out. "Special training will start from today. Neither you nor my sister can neglect it." As Kodari said this, Yayu lowered his head and looked carefully, and found that Kodari was wearing indoor shoes for guests and had a school admission certificate on the chest of his middle school uniform. It seemed that he had successfully passed the procedures and entered the school. "By the way, why did you come back here? Don't you have to go to school?" Yayu asked a little strangely. He stayed at Wilhe's house last night, and he also learned about Kodari's identity in Wilhe Shizi's eyes, an ordinary woman. Middle school student. As the commander-in-chief of Radadoskra, I naturally have to be on hand to supervise the mission during the war. Otherwise, what should I do if something goes wrong? Don't treat this as a child's play. You must know how to implement this. It took a lot of effort to gain the right to fight, and I was under a lot of pressure. Qin Li said this and shrugged helplessly. The girl's words made Yayu couldn't help but wonder what the inside story was. "Let's go find my sister first. We must do the training mission together." As Kodari said this, the group went to find Itsuka Shiori and immediately walked towards a room together. Both Yayu and Wilhe Shizi watched the two people walk into the room with great curiosity. Then, Kodari untied her hair that was usually tied with a white ribbon, took out the black ribbon from her pocket and tied it again. "Tie it up." "Huh, okay, now let's start the special training plan prepared for the two of you." He casually took out a lollipop and threw it into his mouth. Qin Li stared at the two people in front of him with excited eyes. Such eyes made Yayu feel slightly uncomfortable. "Listen up, you two. This is an extremely cruel training, and there won't be any mistakes, you know." Seeing Kodari Itsuka, who was full of aura as the queen for a moment, and seemed to have changed into a different person, Shiori Itsuka, as her sister, showed a look of helplessness. Will changing the ribbon turn on the switch of personality transformation? Staring at the two ribbons on Kinlai's head, Yayu showed an interested expression.